What's up, Graham? It's Guys here. So I think it's no surprise that overall 2021 has been a breakthrough year in so many ways. Like, we now have a brain implant that translates thought to text with 94% accuracy, a new lithium metal battery technology that promises 80% further range, bioengineered bugs developed to help break down plastics. Oh, and Bitcoin just recently hit $69,000. Nice. Although while investors everywhere celebrate the almighty number of meme greatness, there's another topic gaining some mainstream attention, and that all has to do with Ethereum, which so far this year has increased in price roughly 1,000%, outpacing the return of Bitcoin by approximately 3 times. Now, what's interesting is that this isn't just a one-time occurrence either. Since 2016, Ethereum has consistently posted higher annualized returns than just about anything else, leading some people to believe that at the current rate, if this continues, Ethereum could lead the market through an ominous-sounding event known as the flippening, where it overtakes the market cap of Bitcoin and everyone loses their minds. So given how analysts are now predicting both Bitcoin and Ethereum to continue their seemingly unstoppable momentum, let's talk about exactly what's going on, whether or not a reversal is actually possible, and the impact this could have throughout the entire market. Because I have to say, after gathering every piece of data that I could possibly find, the results were pretty surprising and left me reconsidering how I plan to invest in the future and where my money might be best allocated. But before we start, I want to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, the like button. Did you know that every 2 seconds, a like button goes without being smashed? Well, thankfully, with your help, you could make a difference by giving the like button the tap it deserves. And as a thank you for your selfless support in helping the almighty YouTube algorithm, for a limited time, you'll get to see a picture of the creator that you just helped holding the like button that you just smashed. So thank you guys so much, and now with that said, let's begin. Alright, so first, we should really understand exactly what Ethereum is and how it's fundamentally different from other technologies, because I'm sure most people just see it as a less expensive Bitcoin or maybe a faster way to buy things. But both of those descriptions couldn't be further from the truth in terms of really understanding why Ethereum has such a strong mainstream popularity. See, the concept of Ethereum was first described in 2013 by 19-year-old Vitalik Buterin, who created it as a way to facilitate programmable contracts using its own currency. And yes, I realize that sounds incredibly confusing, so we'll break it down a little bit further. The creation of Ethereum all begins with replacing the intermediary between what we do and how our information is processed. Like, for example, while you're watching this video that I created for you, YouTube is the intermediary between us. Or if you want to send money between people, a third party like Venmo, PayPal, or a bank is the intermediary between you and that person. But by having an intermediary, you are trusting that company with your information, and they're the ones that control how and the speed at which your information is presented. Ethereum, on the other hand, is based on the same blockchain network as Bitcoin, except it allows for an open source platform where programmers could build applications that facilitate the exchange of money, content, property, or anything of value in the form of what's called a smart contract. This is a digital agreement that performs a specific task when certain conditions are met, like if you hit the like button will turn blue. If you comment down below, I will respond. Now, where this gets interesting is that these smart contracts could be built for pretty much anything. Like, if I lent you $1,000, the smart contract would make sure that I get paid back by a specific day and time directly from your wallet without any work on your end, directly from the Ethereum blockchain. It basically removes the middleman and allows transactions to happen in real time without any human involvement. The thought is that this would create more trust between parties because there's no gray area. Like, you know the contract doesn't take sides, it just does what both parties agree on, and that's it. So in this case, Ethereum is the network the programs are created on, and Ether is the currency that powers it. Kinda like Ethereum is the car, but Ether is the gas that powers the car. The gas itself was really never meant to be an investment or store of value to begin with, even though it certainly can be, because oil is certainly skyrocketing through the roof. But instead, Ethereum is about creating a completely decentralized peer-to-peer network on a level playing field, with Ether being the currency that powers it. Now, initially, unlike Bitcoin, which is limited to a total number of 21 million coins and that's it, until recently, Ethereum was potentially infinite with a mining limit of 18 million new coins every single year. However, in August of 2021, the Ethereum network underwent what's called the London hard fork, which is a fancy way of saying the program was updated to improve its efficiency and its price. See, before this upgrade, Ethereum transactions were processed and prioritized by whoever was willing to pay the most. Kind of like someone offering to pay a little bit more to cut the line and get VIP access. However, as Ethereum began to grow in popularity, so many people began using the VIP service and cutting the line that their transaction fees increased to a point where it no longer made sense to move smaller amounts because the cost was so high. But with this new upgrade, a base fee is implemented for every every transaction, of which is automatically burned, thereby reducing the overall supply of Ethereum and creating a deflationary effect that winds up increasing its price. As a result, over 800,000 Ethereum have been burned and taken out of circulation in the last 3 months. And this update is set to make way for the much anticipated Ethereum 2.0 upgrade, but we'll talk about that momentarily. The important distinction here is that the Ethereum network is meant to lay the foundation from which other decentralized applications can be built on top of, similar to how the internet allows YouTube to play the videos that you're watching right now. But in terms of its price, why analysts believe it could hit $10,500 and whether or not the flippening has any actual merit, we should discuss its relation to Bitcoin, because I hope so far this isn't confusing and it's all going to make a lot of sense very soon. I'm sure at this point, Bitcoin needs absolutely no introduction as the largest cryptocurrency by market cap and volume. Alright, I guess that was kind of an introduction. But even though most people initially thought of Bitcoin as a new type of digital currency, it eventually evolved into a global store of value, paving the way as a new asset class that's potentially being used as a hedge against inflation and global turmoil. Companies like Tesla, PayPal, Square, MicroStrategy, and a variety of other businesses have begun placing a portion of their cash reserves in Bitcoin. And even entire countries like El Salvador have begun using it throughout their economy. Despite the rapid volatility, more and more people are using it as a way to diversify their portfolio. And as it gains momentum, more and more people are beginning to take it very seriously. Even Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, says that he owns cryptocurrency and he's been interested in it for a while. While billionaire Mark Cuban recommends that investors maintain a small allocation to Bitcoin. And if you want something shocking, JP Morgan, who previously called Bitcoin worthless, is now predicting a long-term price of $146,000. It's also no surprise that millennials and Gen Z own more cryptocurrency than any other generation, and many of them are ditching traditional finance in favor of Bitcoin. The implication is that over time, Bitcoin has really solidified its dominance as the foundation of the entire cryptocurrency market. And ultimately, people invest as a way to protect their money with the expectation that more adoption is going to follow over time, and that will continue to drive up the price. That's already evident by the fact that the first ever Bitcoin futures ETF was introduced, along with a consistent push to bring a Bitcoin index fund to the market that would allow anyone to buy in with a few clicks of a button. It's also said that with Bitcoin, volatility is the price you pay for performance, while Bitcoin grows less risky as adoption and its price increases. And the billionaire Bill Mayer says that Bitcoin's total supply is growing less than 2% a year, and it's obvious by the price that its demand is growing much, much faster than that. Although that then leads us to the question of questions. Will Ethereum's momentum continue growing to the point where eventually it outpaces Bitcoin and flips its position as the largest cryptocurrency on the market? Well, on the surface, in terms of past performance, Ethereum is impressive. For example, there's a website called Cost AVG that calculates the return of cryptocurrency investments over time. And as you can see, had you spent $100 a month buying Bitcoin since 2017, your $6,000 investment would have turned into a $75,000 value, an ROI of 1,155%. However, had you made that same investment into Ethereum during that same time frame, your $6,000 investment would have turned into, wait for it, $227,000 with an ROI of almost 3,700%. Not to mention, throughout 2017, 18, 19, 20, and now 2021, Ethereum has generated higher returns than Bitcoin with no signs of slowing down. Of course, obviously, all of this is only known in hindsight, and it would have been impossible to predict these types of returns 5 years ago. But throughout that time, Ethereum has outperformed Bitcoin's overall return by almost triple. Meaning some people believe that if this continues to the same degree, Ethereum could catch up to the market cap of Bitcoin within about 3 years. Now, of course, that statement is relying on quite a few ambitious assumptions and only calculates that the current rate of return is going to continue in equal proportion without any other changes along the way, which is unlikely to happen exactly as described. I want to make that evidently clear because nothing grows consistently in a linear fashion. And to expect this will always be the case is literally the epitome of using napkin math to predict future returns using past performance, which isn't necessarily the most reliable. But still, Ethereum's performance is much higher than I initially expected. And given the deflationary changes within the London hard fork, Ethereum's price could continue to rise. Fundstrat Global even predicted a $10,500 price target, given its potential to one day be able to process transactions much like MasterCard or Visa. There's also been the very long-awaited release of the Ethereum 2.0 upgrade, which promises further efficiency, scalability, and quicker transaction speeds. Although it's still unclear when that's going to happen, and they've been talking about this now for years. Of course, in terms terms of the flippening and my thoughts about when this can happen, unfortunately it's not all rainbows and sunshine. And we need to talk about the downsides, because I promise you it's not going to be a smooth ride along the entire way. Like in 2017, the price of Ethereum crashed from a high of $1,400 down to a low of $87 within a year. That's a 94% drop compared to Bitcoin's 83% drop during that same time. Scalability is also a potential concern with the increased popularity of using the Ethereum network. And even though the London hard fork solves some of those issues, Ethereum 2.0 is really seen as the long-term solution, although who knows when that's going to happen. The third, I know this might sound unpopular to say, but since Ethereum is a token built around functionality, there's nothing that says that something else won't come along and do a more efficient job and give Ethereum some competition. And fourth, from a retail point of view, Ethereum is seen as often quite confusing, it's functionally still developing, and long-term we have no idea what might happen. Now I have a feeling that Ethereum will continue to evolve, adapt, and develop, but nothing is guaranteed. And just because it's the second largest cryptocurrency by market cap doesn't mean that it will always be. Now listen, I could also say similar concerns about Bitcoin. Even though so far it's successfully used as a store of value, it's horribly used as a currency. And even though Cathie Wood predicts that Bitcoin will eventually hit a price of $500,000, the honest answer is nobody knows. That's why I've chosen to limit my total cryptocurrency investment to 8% throughout my entire portfolio. That's it. And if something were to happen and I lose all of it, well, first of all, that would be horrible, but I would still be okay. I say this because even though experts sometimes make lofty price predictions, that does not mean you won't experience a 90% drop along the way to get there. And understand that anything could happen, and that's a risk you gotta factor in. But in terms of the flippening, to me, based on past performance, it's a legitimate topic that should be taken seriously. This also plays into the topic of Bitcoin dominance, which measures Bitcoin's market cap relative to the rest of the cryptocurrency industry. Or in other words, how much of the entire market cap belongs to Bitcoin. The general thought is that if Bitcoin rises, so does the market price of every other cryptocurrency alongside with it. And the opposite happens if Bitcoin falls and everything else begins to sell off. In this case, Bitcoin dominance has been steadily falling since 2017 after other options like Ethereum, Cardano, and a multitude of others have begun taking some of its place. And throughout the last 5 years, Ethereum is slowly beginning to catch up, having previously reached 2/3 of the market cap of Bitcoin in 2018. Business Insider also just recently quoted a 24-year-old cryptocurrency hedge fund manager as saying, Bitcoin is a store of value, it's digital gold, and so its market cap at most is going to be somewhere around gold, maybe larger because it has some properties that are better than gold. Ethereum is trying to power the rails of all global finance in the future, and that is a much bigger market if it does succeed. Now obviously not everyone agrees, and even the billionaire cryptocurrency investor Mike Novogratz says, what we don't know yet is Ethereum versus Solana, Ethereum versus Luna, Ethereum versus Polkadot, how the level 1 battle is going to turn out. Others worry that if a cryptocurrency surges past Bitcoin, it could unsettle the markets and cause the speculation that if it happens once, it could happen again. As for my take on things, I think the flippening has merit, although Bitcoin and Ethereum are fundamentally different and should not be seen as competitors. Most likely, Bitcoin is going to remain as the mainstream Goliath that probably isn't going anywhere. But Ethereum, on the other hand, is a much more practical and functional use case well beyond just a currency. And as the entire DeFi space grows and develops, I would not be surprised if another technology begins taking away from some of Ethereum's market share. And that, from my perspective, would be the biggest risk to the flippening long term. So given that, I wouldn't necessarily YOLO everything into Ethereum to bet on the flippening happening. For me, that amount is currently 8% and maybe as high as 10% if I want to take on a little bit more risk, split evenly 50-50 between Bitcoin and Ethereum. But ultimately, anything can happen, and even though I find this an incredibly interesting topic to research, at best, everything is a random guess, and you should not be taking advice from somebody on YouTube making videos in his garage. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Feel free to add me on Instagram and on my second channel, The Graham Stephan Show. I post there every single day. I'm not posting here, so if you want to see a brand new video from me every single day, make sure to add yourself to that. And lastly, if you want a completely free stock, now worth all the way up to $1,000, use the link down below in the description and sign up for public. They also just released new cryptocurrency options on the platform, so if you want to be a part of it, the link is down below. Let me know which free stock you get. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.
Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to talk about 9 different ways that you can make passive income, and for each of those I'm going to talk about how hard it is to get started, how hard it is to make $100 a month from it, and how hard it is to maintain once you've created the thing in the first place. For me and my business, these 9 different sources generate around $27,000 per week these days with varying degrees of passiveness. And obviously this has taken me like 8 years to build up, so don't expect to be hitting those sorts of numbers when you first get started. But this is the video that I wish I would have had when I started my financial independence journey many years ago. Let's go for it. Alright, so when I say passive income, I always air quote it because there is really no such thing as passive income. There is no way to make money without doing anything at all. But when I say passive income, what I mean is that it's money that is not directly tied to our time. So let's say you were to write a book. You write a book, you publish a book, that book is now on bookshelves. You've done the work kind of once to write and publish the book, but now anytime the book sells, you make money from royalties. That is passive income. You could literally be making money while you sleep because you've created this thing which is out in the world, which is generating income for you. The other thing with passive income is that it always takes a very long time to get going. So if you see any ads before this video talking about how you can get rich quick by whatever scheme, or if you see people in the comments pretending to be me saying, oh my god, here's how you can get rich quick with crypto, WhatsApp this number, that is all a scam. It's not going to work. There is no way to get rich quick. It is not a thing. So if you're looking for a get rich quick scheme, those things just don't exist. So you might as well not even try. And the way I think of this is that ultimately money is just a medium for exchanging value. The only way to make money is to provide value. And the only way to make passive income, passive money, is to provide value in a way that is not directly tied to your time. So please do not try and join a get rich quick scheme. They don't exist. I've had lots of messages over the years from people who have tried signing up to a get rich quick crypto scheme or a gambling scheme or a, hey, here is how you kind of play poker online. None of these things ever work. People always end up losing money. The only way to make money is by providing value. And so let's talk about the 9 different ways that you could provide value if you wanted to. Just before we dive in, I want to tell you that I've just launched my brand new Skillshare class about productivity for creators, how to start a successful side hustle. That's linked in the video description. Skillshare is sponsoring this video. I'll tell you more about Skillshare later on, but I want to plug my own class because I think it's genuinely really good and people really like it, and it will help you get tips on how you can start side hustles in your spare time. Anyway, let's get into the video. Alright, so let's kick things off with investing in stocks and shares. And in this context, the way that we provide value is by offering up our money. Providing money and investing in a service is, in a way, giving a form of value. And so when we give our money to a company in the form of buying their stocks, it makes sense that we would get some kind of return for that investment. And we're starting with this because investing in stocks is the easiest way to make any kind of passive income. If you have any sorts of savings and they're sitting in a savings account earning 0.01% interest, they're not really doing very much for you. Whereas if you had those savings and put them in stocks, you could potentially be earning passive income from the money that's otherwise just sitting there. Now, I've got a whole video called The Ultimate Guide to Investing in Stocks and Shares for Beginners, which is going to be linked over there somewhere. So that is a solid half an hour long introduction to stocks and exactly how they work. But the thing that I recommend for most beginners as a non-financial advisor, and this is not financial advice, purely for entertainment purposes only, or so people say, or at least the thing that I do is that basically all my money that's in stocks and shares is invested in index funds. Now, an index fund is something like the S&P 500, and when you invest, let's say $1,000 in the S&P 500, that basically means that your $1,000 is distributed amongst the top 500 biggest companies in the US. So, you know, weighted by how big they are. So like, you know, 2% of it would be in Apple, 2% in Facebook, 2% in Google, 2% in Microsoft. And then you probably won't have heard of the 500th company on the list, but basically all the big US companies you've heard of, you end up investing in all of them a little bit at a time. So if you want to get started with that, all you need to do is sign up to a stockbroker. If you're in the US, you can use Webull, I think. I've got a link in the description. If you're in the UK, you can use Freetrade or Vanguard. Basically, whatever country you're in, just Google the phrase best stockbroker platform, your country name, and you'll find something that works for you, and then it's very easy to be able to invest in an index fund. So within our famous side hustle assessment matrix, we're going to give the difficulty of starting a 1-star rating, 1 out of 5. It's very easy to get started with stocks. How hard is it to make $100 a month by investing in stocks and shares? Well, this kind of depends because it depends on the performance of the stock market overall. So in the last 12 months, from 2020 to 2021, the S&P 500 has actually increased by about 50%. That is a lot. It's like gone up by a solid 50% despite COVID and everything going on. So if in April 2020 you had invested $2,400 in the S&P 500, the fact that it's gone up by 50% means you would have made $100 a month. But obviously this is not the way to look at it because, you know, things can go up and down, and the stock market has different levels of performance depending on what time period you're looking at. But if we average out the last 30 to 50 years, the S&P 500 has had a roughly 10-point-something% return, which means every year, on average, over the long term, it goes up by around 10%.
I can see the chat.
This is not inflation adjusted for any economist among us. And so,
there we go. What's up? What's up on the hoop?
$100 a month.
What's up,
passively through
Zinx?
stocks and
What's
shares,
up,
you
Metal?
would need around
What's
about
up,
$12,000
guys?
invested in the S&P 500 to make that
Tuesday or
10%
Thursday for
$400
less.
a year, which is
Oof, I gotta
but
to
as I
check.
talk about in that
But
video
we'll
about stocks,
see
over time we have
which one is
compounding,
better.
and so if you
Yeah,
put in
buddy.
$7,500
You guys like so
in
far?
the S&P 500 and you
I'll
left
be
it there for
right
5 years,
back.
and 5 years later you would be making
I'll be
roughly
right back. Give me one
if
second.
we go by this very average figure of 10% a year, or if you invested $5,000 in the S&P 500, then 10 years later you'd be making $100 a month in purely passive income, again assuming the 10% average. So overall, how hard is it really to make $100 a month in passive income from stocks and shares? Well, it kind of just depends on how hard is it for you to make $5,000, $7,500 or $12,000 in savings and put them into a stock market index fund. And crucially, this is money that you shouldn't need to touch in the next 5 to 10 years at least. So basically, how easy is it for you to make that sort of money? Obviously varies massively depending on which country you're in and what your circumstances are and what your job is. But if you're in the UK or the US, where the median kind of average salary is around about $50,000, something like that, then again, depending on your circumstances, it's not that hard to get $10,000 in savings. Obviously, if you're supporting a family of 15 people on $50,000, it's different. If you're a single person, again, it's different. But I'm going to give this roughly a 3 out of 5 star rating for difficulty of getting $100 a month. Obviously, if you live in a country like India, where the average salary is $3,600 a year, it's very, very difficult to make $10,000 in savings overall. And finally, the third category in our side hustle assessment matrix is how hard is it to maintain this income once you've set it up in the first place. And we're going to give this a 1 star out of 5 because once you've got the money in, you just like set it and forget it, and it's not that hard to maintain. There are other sources of passive income that require higher degrees of maintenance over time, but stocks and shares is a very, very easy way to make passive income. And to use my personal example, these days my stocks and shares portfolio, which I've been investing in since 2015, is now worth around about $350,000, and the vast majority of that is in the S&P 500 index fund. Now, I can't be bothered to work out the actual inflation-adjusted returns for that, but again, if we assume a very, very rough average of 10% a year, then that averages out to around $682 per week in purely passive income. All right, idea number 2 for generating passive income is to start a YouTube channel. This is something I specialize in because I'm here on YouTube, and I actually teach a course called the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, linked in the video description, where I teach people how to do this sort of thing. So let's use our side hustle assessment matrix and we'll talk about this. How hard is it to start a YouTube channel? Well, I'm going to give this 1 out of 5 stars because it's actually very, very easy to start a YouTube channel. You just go on youtube.com, you click create a channel, and you can upload videos by just filming with your phone and uploading it. In reality, it's a lot harder to make good videos, and making good videos is how you grow on YouTube. But getting started on YouTube is very, very, very straightforward. The real question is, how hard is it to actually make real money from YouTube? So again, let's say we want to make $100 a month in passive income. What does that look like? Well, firstly, to be eligible for monetization on YouTube, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time. It took me 6 months and 52 videos to get my first 1,000 subscribers. And if we look at the averages, it actually takes on average 90-something videos to get to 1,000 subscribers. So that's quite hard. If you're thinking you're going to start a YouTube channel and start making money from day one, that's basically not going to happen. It took me 52 videos, 6 months to get there. So if people message me like, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel, I'm like, you have to be able to put in the effort and do this for a very long period of time. At least once a week, I say, for at least 2 years before you can expect anything in return. But let's say you've hit your 1,000 subscribers and your 4,000 hours of watch time. How hard is it to actually make $100 a month? Well, on average, the kind of revenue per 1,000 views on YouTube is around about $2. So this varies massively, but let's say on average about $2 per 1,000 views. Therefore, if you want to make $100 a month, you need 50,000 views on YouTube to make $100 a month. Let's say you make 1 video per week, and let's assume you're not getting any traffic on your older videos. That means every video you make needs to get around about 12,500 views. And very roughly, the average YouTube channel can expect around about 20% of their subscribers to equal the average view count for each video. So on YouTube, if you had 62,000 subscribers, very roughly, very averagely, you can expect 20% of them, i.e. 12,500 views on each video, and assuming you have no evergreen content over the long term, you would need around about 60,000 subscribers to be making $100 a month. In reality, you make $100 a month a lot before 60,000 subscribers. I think I was making $100 a month when I had like 10,000 something subscribers. Like it was fairly early on. But when it comes to assessing how hard is this to do, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 stars. It's actually very hard to make compelling YouTube videos, and it's very easy to get started, but it's hard to do well. It's totally worth it. It's a great skill set. It's really fun. You get to meet people across the internet. You get to learn how to talk to a camera and how to film and video edit. And it's really great, but it's very hard to actually make money from YouTube. Finally, in terms of effort to maintain, like actually getting that first 1,000 subscribers is a lot harder than keeping it growing. Because Because once you've got 1,000 subscribers and once your channel is growing, it means you've landed on a formula that works. And so maintaining it then becomes easier than starting from scratch. And so in our side hustle assessment matrix, we're going to give maintenance of a YouTube channel passive income stream to be around about 2 out of 5 stars. To use my example, I made 70 videos before I started making any money from YouTube AdSense. And these days, the YouTube channel makes around about $12,000 a month in passive income from YouTube AdSense. Now, again, this is not entirely passive because I keep on uploading new videos, but actually the bulk of the amount of money that we generate from ads is from older videos rather than videos that were uploaded this month. So with that caveat, $12,000 a month passive income is around about $3,000 a week thanks to this YouTube channel, and thanks to you guys for supporting it and all that stuff. There are other ways of monetizing YouTube, like brand deals and like selling merch and this all other sort of stuff, but it doesn't really count as passive income through YouTube, which is why I'm not including this in this side hustle assessment matrix. Idea number 3 for making passive income is to start a podcast. This is generally easier than starting a YouTube channel, although growing a podcast is a lot harder than growing a YouTube channel because podcasts themselves don't really have a algorithm that's helping them grow. In fact, a lot of podcasts grow by having a YouTube channel, which is kind of weird. Right, so how hard is it to start a podcast? Well, again, 1 out of 5 stars. It's very, very easy to start a podcast. Go on anchor.fm and you can literally use your phone and you can pass your phone around between you and your friends and you can start a podcast. You can use a website called riverside.fm that I've recently invested in as an angel investor. Riverside makes it very easy to record remote podcast interviews. It's very, very easy to start a podcast. But how hard is it to make $100 a month in passive income from a podcast? Well, again, this is not quite passive income because the way podcasters make money is by relying on brand deals. There is no YouTube AdSense for podcasts. And so you need a sponsorship or a brand deal to make any money for your podcast, generally speaking. And apparently you can expect to make around $18 for a 30-second ad in a podcast and $25 per 1,000 views or 1,000 listens for a 60-second ad. So if you want to make $100 a month, and assuming you have a stream of sponsorships who are giving you that level of sponsorship deal based on your download numbers, you would need around 1,000 downloads per episode if you have a weekly podcast. So you would have 4,000 downloads a month. And if you're putting a 60-second ad in there for $25 per 1,000 views, that would make you around about $100 a month by having 1,000 downloads per episode and 4 episodes per month. This begs the question, how hard is it to get 1,000 downloads per month? Well, it's a lot harder to get 1,000 podcast downloads per month than it is to get 1,000 YouTube views per month, because again, YouTube has so much distribution built in. It's different to podcasts. Also, loads more people are on YouTube than on podcasts. But if we look at the stats, then it's the top 20% of podcasts in the world that get on average more than 1,000 downloads per episode. To use a friend of mine as an example, my housemate Sheen started her own podcast around 5 months ago. There will be a link to that in the description if you want to check it out. And on average, her podcast gets round about 400 to 500 downloads per episode. This is not bad at all, especially considering she started 5 months ago and had 0 audience when she started, so she didn't have the unfair advantage that I did when starting my own podcast, for example. And because she's just launched season 2 of her podcast and has just started posting videos about it on YouTube, that will really help the podcast grow. And I'm pretty sure that in the next 6 months, she'll be getting to a point where she can quite easily make $100 a month from her podcast. So going back to our side hustle assessment matrix, starting a podcast, 1 out of 5 stars. Making $100 a month, I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5 stars because it's hard, but not as hard as maybe monetizing on YouTube where you have this minimum threshold. And finally, maintenance, well, it's not really passive income because you do have to keep on making podcast episodes because the brand deals are associated with that. But again, once you've stumbled on a formula that works, once you know how to be a podcaster, it's easier to continue going once you've already gotten started, as is the case with most things. And so in terms of maintenance of the podcast, I'm going to give that 2 stars. To use me as an example, so me and my brother have a podcast called Not Overthinking, link in the video description if you want to check it out. But we make around about $625 per week from the podcast overall, from brand deals and from our membership. All right, so idea number 4 for generating passive income is to become an affiliate marketer. Affiliate marketing means that you are selling other people's products, but you're getting a percentage of the sales from those products. Now, apparently, 48% of affiliate marketers globally earn $20,000 a year, which is $1,660 a month, which is actually not bad at all. Like, people are doing very well with affiliate marketing overall. So how hard is it to get started with affiliate marketing? Well, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5 stars. Basically, you can just sign up to an affiliate program like Amazon Associates. So Amazon have their own affiliate program, which I think is probably the biggest in the world. And then once you have your little special links, you can post those on your website or on Twitter or on social media or whatever. And if people buy the product through your link, or in fact buy any product on Amazon through your link, you'll get like some tiny percentage of the sales. So pretty easy to get started with affiliate marketing, but how hard is it to make $100 a month? Well, this is actually kind of hard. So let's say you had a product that was $50 that you were trying to sell and you were getting 5% commission on it. That would be pretty good. Amazon doesn't offer nearly as much as 5%. It offers like 2 or 3%, something like that. And let's say your average conversion rate, i.e. people visiting the thing versus people actually buying the product after visiting the thing, let's say that's 1%, which is pretty reasonable for a conversion rate. you would need 8,000 visits to your website or whatever to make $100 a month. It's actually quite hard to get 8,000 visits per month to your website, to a specific product page. And generally, doing well in affiliate marketing requires lots of upfront effort in terms of either building an audience or building such domain authority in whatever space you're in that you're organically getting traffic. Now, other than Amazon, there are a few other affiliate
really
programs
depends
I'm
on
part of.
what do you think,
Skillshare,
buddy.
who are kindly sponsoring this video.
Tell me
I'll tell you about the
yourself.
sponsor segment later, but Skillshare have an interesting affiliate program where if
You
you
guys like
refer
this
someone
character?
to sign up to a free trial of Skillshare,
It's looking good, huh?
you can get $7 in affiliate commission just for that thing. So if you wanted to make $100 a month from affiliates, you would need 15 people every month to sign up for Skillshare with your affiliate link thing. How hard is it to get 15 people a month to sign up with your affiliate link? Well, it's not that hard if you have an audience, and it's not that hard if you have your own classes on Skillshare like I do. I have like 9 of them. And so if I want to make money through Skillshare affiliates, I can just tell people, hey guys, I can tell you that guys, I've just released my latest Skillshare class, Productivity for Creators, How to Start a Successful Side Hustle. So there'll be a link in the video description if you want to check that out. Like that would be, hopefully some of you will see that. We'll click on that link in the description, and then that will be me getting some affiliate income from Skillshare for this video. So going back to our side hustle assessment matrix, how hard is it to make $100 a month? I'm going to give this a 3.5 star rating because, again, you need an audience. And as we always talk about on this channel, the way you build an audience is by creating useful content.
Okay,
putting it
yes, I
free
like the
on internet
character.
once a week, and
Nice,
doing this for
nice.
at least 2
Thanks,
years.
buddy.
If you just follow those 3 steps, I guarantee you'll
But
make
why
$100
not on the
you'll
on
make some
both
money
days?
with passive income stuff.
Can
But
you
that's
have
what
on
I do.
both
No one sticks
days?
to it for at least 2 years,
I-
so we'll
I
give that a
suggested you
3.5 star
before
rating. But the good news is
to
once
have
you've created
on
it and once you've
on
started
both
making
days,
money from affiliates,
days,
it's
the
actually
less.
quite easy to maintain because especially if you have evergreen
So,
content, the sort that
yeah,
isn't reliant
let me
on
know.
current affairs or the latest news, the sort that people might search for over a long period of time, this becomes like relatively reasonable passive income. Now, if we look at me and my business, these days from Skillshare, we make around about $11,000 per month in affiliate income, which approximates to around $2,750 per week. And from Amazon, on average, like it's around about $450 a month from the Amazon UK store, and a little bit more from the US and Canada. All right, method number 5 of making passive income is by selling digital products. Now, these are products that you create once, like an ebook or a download or an app or something like that. So you create it once, and then you can sell it multiple times, because selling digital products doesn't usually have any cost associated with it. One really good example is this guy called Traff, who I follow on Twitter, who made an iOS
both days
14
are
icon
tricky
set
because I have
and sold it for like
that
$30
group
months ago,
project
and ended up making I
is
think
killing
like
me,
$300,000 in the course of like a few weeks, just because loads of people around the world
It's
wanted to buy
killing
this
me.
icon pack. So he put the work into creating the pack, and now he's selling it for lots of money. Another example is
Jesus.
my YouTuber friend Olier, who has made, as he says, $700,000
Yeah, I know, I know.
selling his
I
website
know, I know.
Tumblr
That's for
themes
the
since
college.
2014. So he made the
Yes,
website
I
themes for
know,
Tumblr,
but
he sells them, and he makes $700,000 on average, well, overall, since 2014. That's pretty cool. So, how hard is it to get started making digital products? I mean, anyone can write an ebook. An ebook counts as a digital product. So I'm going to give this a 2-star rating, 2 out of 5 stars. But obviously, like, again, money is an exchange of value. So the thing that you're selling, you have to be providing enough value to compensate, to make up for the price that you're selling it for. And that's often quite hard, especially if you don't have any experience in this sort of field. And how hard is it to make $100 a month? Well, you know, it's very easy to create an ebook, but it's a whole different ballgame trying to get people to actually buy your ebook or buy your icon set or buy your app or buy your website themes. And because the market around this stuff is so competitive, like, you have to be genuinely really good to get people to buy your stuff. And the way you get people to pay you money for something is that you identify a problem that they have, you solve that problem, and then you charge money for it. And if you can do those 3 things, then it's, you know, I wouldn't say it's easy to make $100 a month, but it's very doable to make $100 a month. You just genuinely have to have something that solves a pain point that other people are willing to pay for. So we're going to give this a 3 out of 5 stars to make $100 a month from selling digital products. And finally, in terms of maintenance, we're going to give this a 2 out of 5 stars, because usually you do have to maintain your product a little bit, but it's often easier to do, like, it's much easier to maintain a product than creating a product in the first place. Idea number 6 for passive income generation is to create an online course. Now, online course is sort of like a digital product, but generally online courses are in video format. In fact, this whole video is so long, it could basically have been an entire online course. Maybe I'll do one about this very topic. And in terms of getting started, I'm going to give the starting ability a 2 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
Because it's not that hard making on online
Yeah,
online
my
course,
friend.
but generally
It
you need
does,
to know
it
how to
does,
do
it
So,
does.
yeah, you actually could film an
Good
online
point,
course on
good
your
point.
iPhone or phone.
Yeah,
or
Ichigo is a
if
beast.
you're on an Android, you can
When I drew
go
for
inside,
you,
go to the phone,
but
teach something. So it's not hard
it's
to
so
create
cool.
one, but in terms of making a
Metal
$100 a
also
month,
likes
again, at that
Ichigo.
point, your course needs to actually be good.
Yeah, I
and
drew
so
for
the only
Kurage
reason people will pay for it is if the course is actually good.
commission
Now, you
of
can
each
avoid having to charge for
method.
your online courses by using a website like Skillshare, who are very
And I'm
good.
making
Videos,
some
I
more
have tons of
commissions.
classes on
There
Skillshare.
are
I think there's
7,
about 9
how
of
many
them in
are?
total. I've been teaching on
They-
Skillshare
8
since
or 9?
October 2019. And I've actually just released my new online class called Productivity for Creators, How to Start a Successful Side
So you are
Hustle, where I teach
from
you the
Canada,
ins and outs of
my
how you
friend.
can, well, create your own side
Could I
hustle in
get-
your spare time without quitting your job. If you want to check this out, then the first 1,000 people to click the link in the video description will get 30% off the annual Skillshare premium membership. This is actually a really good deal. I pay for Skillshare. I have been paying it for years, even after I started teaching on it, because it's genuinely a fantastic place to learn stuff. They've got thousands of classes on all sorts of other topics, but you should definitely check out mine, like the 9 that I've got. There are 3 around productivity now, like the fundamentals of productivity, the sort of productivity equation, which is how I think of productivity, and productivity for creators. I have 2 on how you can study for exams. If you're in school, if you've got exams to prepare for, those apparently are really good. You've got very high ratings. And if you've already had a free trial of Skillshare, then you can still use that offer. That if you're one of the first 1,000 people to hit the link in the video description, you will get 30% off the premium membership, and you can check out my class, which I have to say is pretty good. Anyway, thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video, but genuinely, Skillshare is a great place to teach stuff, because you can teach things on Skillshare without directly having to charge for them, which is why I love putting my courses on Skillshare. It's kind of like having something on Netflix, in that the end user does not have to pay directly for the product. And the other nice thing about Skillshare is that it's like it's sort of like YouTube, in that anyone can upload a class to Skillshare, provided it meets certain quality requirements. And so it's a lot easier than having to make your own website and create your own courses platform and all that kind of stuff. So pretty easy to start. We're going to give this a 2 out of 5. But how hard is it to make $100 a month from teaching online courses? Now this kind of depends. If you're going down the Skillshare route, then to make $100 a month on Skillshare, you need around about 1,700 minutes of watch time, which is 28 hours of watch time. So if you have a 1-hour class on Skillshare, you need 28 students to take that class every month and watch it with a premium membership, roughly, very broadly speaking. And that will give you around about $100 a month. At least those are based on my figures over the last 2 years of being on Skillshare. Now, how hard is it to get 28 people a month watching your class? Well, if your class is actually pretty good, it shouldn't be too hard to get 28 people a month watching it. If you have an existing audience, it's very easy to get 28 people a month watching it, because people already know, like, and trust you, hopefully, and so they'll watch your stuff and give you a shot because you've already built that goodwill with them. But the nice thing about Skillshare as a platform is that they have like their own algorithm, so the good stuff rises to the top. So if you genuinely have a really good class and you put it on Skillshare, then even if you don't have an audience, there is still a high chance that if the class is actually good and people watch it a lot and people recommend it and give it high ratings, it will rise to the top and it will start getting recommended to people who find it on the Skillshare homepage or who search for it specifically. The other way of making $100 a month from a course is to just charge $100 for a course, and then if you do that, you just need 1 sale every month. So how hard is it to get 1 person a month to buy your course? Well, again, if it's good, you know, the world of online education is exploding so much. Every year more and more
nice,
money is
thanks a
being
lot,
spent on
buddy.
education, especially with the whole pandemic stuff.
Good,
But
good,
if you
good.
have a valuable skill that you can
Have you
teach,
seen
I
the
think
other ones
courses are
that I
one of
have
the best
here?
and one of the best ways of making passive income, because it's fun to create a course, you can teach stuff, you don't need that many technical skills like making a website or anything like that. You just shove it on Skillshare, and then people can take your course and learn on the internet, and like, it's just cool overall. And the nice thing is that once you've made the course and once you're making $100 a month from it, maintaining that level is actually quite easy. We're going to give that a 2 out of 5 stars, because generally you don't need to update the course that often, and you can do that once in a while. You just need to make sure you're getting a reasonable amount of traffic to it, and hopefully that traffic will grow over time. These days, the vast majority of my online courses, at least the very passive ones, are hosted on Skillshare, and it's kind of ridiculous, but these days they make around about $60,000 to $65,000 per month in purely passive income. Like, I literally do nothing for my Skillshare classes once I've made them, other than reply to comments and other than occasionally plug them in videos, and that's like $60,000 a month in passive income. That means this is around about $15,000 per week, and this makes up the bulk of the $27,000 a week that this business currently generates in purely passive income. Idea number 7 for passive income is by creating some kind of paid membership or community model. Now again, this is generally a bad idea unless you have an existing audience, which we keep coming back to. Like, everything becomes easier when you have an existing audience by creating content that has been valuable over a long period of time, very consistently. That audience knows, likes, and trusts you, and so when you say, hey guys, sign up to my Patreon, then some people are likely to do that thing. The other way of doing a membership is by creating a value proposition that is so compelling that people will be willing to pay for a community-like service for them. If we use Patreon as an example, my friend Hannah Witten, who's a YouTuber, she's got around about 600,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I think she has around 600 patrons, 626 last time I checked, which means if we look at her Patreon stats, which are public, she's making somewhere between £2,000 and £5,000, or like $3,000 and $7,000 per month in passive income from this audience, but it's like 600 people out of an audience of 600,000. So 1 in 1,000 of her subscribers have signed up to her Patreon. So clearly, you know, if those stats are true across the board, and they kind of are if you look at Matt Diavella's Patreon as well, you need a big audience to make a significant amount of money from Patreon. Again, this sort of depends on how much you're charging for them and exactly what value you're providing. Another example of a paid membership community is my friend Anne Lore, who runs a website called Nest Labs, and they have a paid membership community, which is $5 a month. And she started this, when was it? In summer of 2019. She had 0 audience at the time, and she just wrote 100 blog posts over 100 working days and built up an audience, such that in March 2020, when she launched a membership, she had some paying members for it initially. And I think last month, she's just passed $100,000 a year in annual recurring revenue, which is pretty awesome from something that started less than 2 years ago. So how easy is it to start a membership program? Well, it's actually very easy. We can give this a 1 star because it's very easy to start one. You just make an account on some kind of membership platform like Patreon. But to make $100 a month, you need to provide $100 a month worth of value. And that's actually quite hard to do. We're going to give that a 4 out of 4.
Alright, Bitcoin, blockchain, Dogecoin, Ethereum, NFTs, everyone is talking about cryptocurrencies right now. But, good lord, what does all of it mean? So, welcome to the one video that will take you from crypto noob to crypto genius. I'm going to tell you what it is, why it keeps becoming more important, what I've actually invested in myself, and the dark side of it. Okay, so when society was in its early stages, there was no such thing as money. We'll call this stage 1. The only way to buy something off someone was to go up to them and be like, oh, I really like your horse. I'll trade you my cat for it. Sorry, Milo. I never trade you. But the issue with a system like that is that even though you might be perfectly happy to give up your horse, you just might not want a cat. So that trade will never happen. But that's where currency came in. Stage 2, coins, which, because they were made of precious materials like gold and silver, everyone just accepted that they were worth something. You've heard of the British pound, right? Well, the reason they're called pounds is because £1 literally just used to be £1 of silver. And so all of a sudden in a trade, it doesn't matter if you don't want my cat. As long as I have coins, we can still trade for your horse. Even if you have no use at all for the silver, because it's a precious material, you have that reassurance that you can take that coin, give it to someone else, and trade for something that you do want. Convenient, right? But then this evolved to stage 3. As banks became established and governments had control, we realized that as long as there was trust in the system, we could move away from needing to carry blocks of precious metal towards something even more convenient. Paper money. It does the same thing, but now the money doesn't have value because it's made of pure silver, it just has value because the government says it has value. Like this £10 note here in the UK, the note itself is just made of, well, it's actually made of plastic. They changed it recently because it's more durable. But if you look closer, you can see that all this actually is the Bank of England promising that they will pay the bearer of this note £10. Really, this is just a receipt, a kind of proof that you own a certain amount of money. But as technology has improved even further, we found even more convenient ways of storing and trading our stuff. We're now in what I would call stage 4, where more people than ever are buying things online and using credit cards, and really when you're at that stage, we don't see our money anymore. It's not about coins or notes or cats, it's just entries on a spreadsheet. Like when I buy a music album from Amazon, all that's happening is that my bank adds an entry in my spreadsheet that says Aaron now has $10 less, and then Amazon's bank adds an entry that says they have $10 more. So, the reason I've given you this entire intro is to give you context on where cryptocurrency sits. It's seen by many people as the most convenient era of exchange ever. Stage 5. The way to think about a cryptocurrency is that it's 100% virtual. I know the logo for Bitcoin kind of looks like a physical coin. It really is a Bitcoin now. But with crypto, there is no gold, there is no silver, there is no paper. It really is just the transfer of digital assets. The core concept is exactly the same. Think of them as literally just running spreadsheets of who's paid what to who. But instead of multiple banks keeping their own separate records, with crypto, there is just one enormous spreadsheet of every transaction made using that currency. And this is called a ledger. Okay, we all have a good spreadsheet, but what's all the fuss about? Why is everyone going crypto crazy? Well, there are some distinct advantages to a currency system like this. One, it's decentralized, which means that while every transaction of a given cryptocurrency is all recorded on the same ledger, there are many, many copies of that ledger, and anyone who is a part of the network has one. You might have heard of cryptocurrency mining, or Bitcoin mining. Well, all that is someone who set up a computer to crunch through transactions on their copy of this ledger or spreadsheet. There are already about 1 million Bitcoin miners around the world, and Bitcoin is just one type of cryptocurrency. The reason they're doing it? Well, if you dedicate your computer's power to mining, say Bitcoin, then you will earn some Bitcoin as compensation. So the result of this is that if I go into a store and spend 5 Bitcoins on something, then instead of just checking with one bank's records, the shop instead checks with every single computer on this network if I have enough. And assuming I do, each computer will give the go-ahead, and then every single one will update their records independently. So because you end up having this many copies of exactly the same ledger, it becomes very easy to tell if anyone's trying anything fishy. Who bought this? Like if I try to hack into someone's computer that's on the network and give myself more money by adjusting figures on their copy of the ledger, it's not going to get through. The system will realize that 99.9% of the copies on the ledger are saying one thing, but one of them is saying something else, so it must have been tampered with. There's very clear organization to the system, and I think people believe in it because they see the future as open, traceable transactions, much more so than having like some bits of the record over here and other bits over there. And I know it seems complex at this point, but as we go through this, I think you'll realize that for a lot of people, in a way, it's simpler. There are plenty of areas in the world that have internet access, which is all you'd need for crypto, but don't have access to traditional banks, which require a lot of paperwork and documentation. Too, and I've kind of implied this already, but the main perk of crypto is that you don't need banks anymore. Because everything is stored by the people on this ledger, you can make international payments almost instantly instead of it taking half a day with no spending limits. Plus, you don't need to worry about exchange rates, you don't need to worry about interest rates, and even transaction fees are close to zero. For some cryptocurrencies, that is. But this is where the real fun begins. Fun at parties, I promise. The reason that cryptocurrencies are called cryptocurrencies is because they're secured by cryptography. And one example of this, which a lot of the major cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin use, is blockchain. Now, people often get confused by this. Blockchain is not Bitcoin. Blockchain is not a currency itself. Blockchain is just a secure type of ledger. So you know that big spreadsheet that everyone has that's recording transactions? Blockchain is just a way of organizing it, funnily enough, into blocks. So every time I pay for something with Bitcoin, that transaction is recorded as a block. Each block contains transaction data, like who was paid and how much, a hash, which is a unique identifier, and the hash of the previous block in the sequence, or the last transaction that was recorded. And the pivot on which this system rests is that if something in a block is changed, then that block's hash will change. You might be starting to see where this is going. Because each block also contains the data of the previous block, if the hash of the block here changes, then the next block will no longer have a matching hash with it, and so every subsequent block after that one becomes invalid. So if you combine this with what we talked about earlier, this whole idea of 1 million different users all having their own copy of the blockchain ledger, then if I wanted to fraudulently create a transaction that, say, paid me money, I'd have to not just tamper with a block and every single block after it, but I'd also have to do this on at least 500,000 computers around the world, so that the majority of computers in the system are also consistent with the one I've tampered with. Probably not gonna happen. Whereas just hacking into someone's dollar account and sending myself money, that does happen. And it's sometimes as simple as just literally guessing someone's 6-digit PIN. But there's a massive jump between that and trying to hack into 500,000 uncorrelated computers at once. Okay, so cryptocurrencies have their issues. I'm literally going to get to them in a minute, but hopefully you can see why some people are excited about them. And that brings me on to investments. You've probably heard of people putting money into cryptocurrencies, and all that means is that they're exchanging normal currencies, like dollars, for cryptos, like Bitcoin. They're hoping that those cryptocurrencies become the next big thing, and therefore suddenly shoot up in value, at which point they can then either spend them, or just exchange them back for more dollars than they bought them for. There's actually a term for cryptocurrencies that skyrocket like this, going to the moon, or mooning, but that can mean something very different depending on who you talk to. But the one decision that someone would have to make at this point is, which cryptocurrency? Because we've talked about Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is just one of over 4,000 different cryptos already, and each of them have different properties. For example, Ethereum, which is the second most invested in, can process transactions even faster than Bitcoin. There's one called Cardano, which is considered to be technologically superior. There's one called Litecoin, which has a newer algorithm. And if you are enjoying this video, then a sub to the channel would be delightful. So, let me show you what I've done, and disclaimer, this is not in any way at all financial advice. I'm not recommending this. I've literally only put in a small amount of money that I am comfortable losing, And to be honest, the way I'm seeing it is more as an optimistic gamble as opposed to a strategic investment. The only thing that you absolutely should buy is one of these hats. Best purchase I've ever made. That is financial advice. So I've put 40% in Ethereum, 20% in Polygon, 20% in Cardano, 10% in Cartesi, and 10% in Litecoin. And this portfolio has basically gone up and then down, and then up and then down. And then, honestly, you probably get more consistency from Wish.com. So crypto is in a pretty weird place right now. And this brings me on to its problems. The dark side. One of the main ones is exactly this. The reason I think a lot of people don't take crypto seriously is its volatility. Because these currencies are so new and they're completely digital, unlike, say, the market for gold, no one really knows what they should be worth. And so you find that crypto prices are quite heavily speculative. They're tied to the news cycle. Like when a glowing article comes out about them, prices spiral upwards. But then when Elon Musk posts a tweet that puts them down, they go way down. Two is the fact that they're not really accepted as a form of payment in, well, most places. Like, yes, I can now book holidays with crypto, I can donate to Wikipedia with crypto, but there's been a lot of companies who are pretty back and forth with it. Microsoft, Tesla, even Burger King are examples of companies who said they were going to accept Bitcoin, and then they said they weren't going to accept Bitcoin. Three, there can be an environmental concern. See, the whole reason why a lot of these cryptos are so secure is because of this concept of transactions being verified many, many times by many, many computers. So I think it's a fair criticism that that in itself creates a fundamental inefficiency. That much computing power requires a lot of electricity. But at the same time, you could counter this by saying that traditional banking uses more electricity, that there are newer coins with better technology that are more efficient, and that one day we'll be able to get that electricity from renewable sources. Depends who you ask. And four, there's also a pretty strong sentiment that because there's no real policing or regulation on crypto right now, it's like the perfect currency for criminals. But to be honest, I think the data speaks for itself on that one. According to Chainalysis, 0.34% of crypto transactions are criminal, up to 5% of normal cash transactions are criminal. And I think that's because it's a bit of a misconception that currencies like Bitcoin are anonymous. They're actually pseudonymous, which means that even though your actual details aren't visible to everyone, your public key, your unique identifier, will be permanently baked into the blockchain upon making transactions with it. So cash is just a better currency for most types of criminal activity, because by its very nature, it's untraceable. Don't ask me how I know that. But as well as the negatives, there are also just some straight up odd things that have come about because of crypto. For example, you might have heard of an NFT, a non-fungible token. If you haven't, you might want to take a seat for this one. I don't want to call it stupid, but this one's a head scratcher. So, you know how now you can go into an art gallery and you can pay to own a painting? Well, now, thanks to the blockchain, you can pay just to have digital ownership over something. So it doesn't stop anyone from using or sharing that thing, but all it means is that you'd effectively be the owner of the original, and they'd all be sharing copies of it, even if, for most intents and purposes, they look and behave identically. Like, a lot of these NFTs are literally just JPEG images. I think the reason some people find this stupid and kind of funny is that there's a distinct difference between buying an NFT and buying the rights over something. So, if you buy the rights over something, that's a very legitimate purchase because you can create merch or sell licenses. With an NFT, you can't. The original owner still has all the reproduction rights over that piece. All it is that you're using the blockchain to prove that you have some ownership over that asset. But clearly, just being able to say that has some value, because an NFT of this Gucci ghost sold for $3,600. The CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, he sold the first tweet he ever made as an NFT for $2.9 million. 5 words! I could do that. Any takers? And this one just blows my mind. This photo, which is basically an overview of one guy's pieces of art, sold for $69 million. Very nice. To clarify, this literally just gives the buyer some digital ownership over a JPEG image. And finally, you might have heard of Dogecoin. Dogecoin is based on the same tech as Litecoin, but it was created as a joke. People started sharing it and putting a bit of money into it because they thought it was funny, but that propelled its value to the point where now we have people who have actually become millionaires just because they bought Dogecoin when it was cheap. It's an interesting world out there. If you did find this useful, then do consider sharing it with a friend or family member who could benefit. I would really appreciate it. And for my best phones of 2021, click here. For an Instagram story that crashes your phone, click here. My name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss. Catch you in the next one.
Now to the latest trend that's sweeping the internet called NFT.
They're now selling for huge bucks.
$69 million. So what's behind this latest craze?
That is the question to ask. Okay, so there's some super strange stuff happening online right now, and I need to tell you about it. First, look at this tweet. The first tweet ever tweeted in the history of Twitter. The tweet was by Jack Dorsey.
I'm one of the co-founders of Twitter.
And this tweet was somehow just purchased for $2,915,835.47.
You serious?
And it's not just a tweet. Just last month, a single JPEG sold for $69 million.
Oh my God.
The NBA is selling little moments of basketball games for hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is all sorts of digital things that people are purchasing a version of them for lots of money. There are 3 simple letters that you need to understand what's going on. Those letters are NFT.
Now to the latest trend that's sweeping the internet.
What exactly is an NFT?
So-called NFT.
Y'all in the chat understand what an NFT is?
Does that stand for not safe for work? What does this mean?
Why would you pay for an NFT when you can look at it for free?
Is this a gigantic bubble just waiting to burst? I believe in this space with my whole heart. I'm just fascinated by it, all of it.
This story is much bigger than a $600,000 cat gift or a $3 million tweet. It's a story about human psychology and how the way we value things is shifting because of technology. A technology that some people think may revolutionize our society, while at the same time accelerating the climate disaster. It's really nuts. It's all of these things together, and I want to explain it to you. So let's do this.
To LeBron James! That was insane! Officially insane, LeBron James.
NFT stands for non-fungible token. Okay, there it is. That's the explanation. Non-fungible token. Makes sense, right? So the video's over now. No. One of my issues with this topic is that people throw around things like blockchain, crypto art, ledger, NFT, and they just expect me to understand what they're talking about, and I didn't. Okay, I'm going to talk about a Tesla for a second. Customized by Unplugged Performance to be the most unique and high-quality Tesla there is. Oh, and it's not just a Tesla, it's also $20,000. You can enter for a chance to win the Tesla and $20,000 by going to omaze.com/JohnnyHarris. When you donate $10 or more, your donation goes to support 2 nonprofits. 501c3 is the first one. They are an organization that seeks to mobilize the next generation to fight climate change by creating a global community that embraces low-carbon culture. The other one is called Give Power, which seeks to give clean, drinkable water to the 2.2 billion people around the world who do not have safe access to clean water. The nonprofit uses its deep solar expertise to power and provide clean water, food security, and light to regions around the world. So, to potentially win a Tesla for $20,000 and to support these organizations, go to omaze.com/JohnnyHarris to find out more. So, fungible. Let's talk about the word fungible. It's this very specific word that economists use. It has a very precise definition. I want to use a different word for fungible for a second. Let's just use the word replaceable. Non-fungible means non-replaceable. You can't replace it. There's only one of them. It's unique. Non-fungible. Let me give you an example of something I feel very strongly about. Let's say you want to buy an orange jacket. This is really absurd. I've actually never counted these before.
Stop it. Get some help.
You want to buy an orange jacket from Uniqlo. You go on the internet and a jacket costs $39. If you purchase one of these jackets for $39, you don't care what specific jacket
Jesus,
they
I'm tired.
send to you. They're going to make thousands
What
of
about you
jackets
guys?
in your size.
How tired are you?
Stores send them to people. and they will send one to you. You don't care which one it is. The jacket is fungible. It's replaceable. As long as you get one that's identical to the rest, it's worth the same to you. They're interchangeable. However, let's talk about one Uniqlo orange jacket that has been with me for a very long time. This is the original, and for those of you who don't know, I sort of have a strange attachment to this jacket. I just love it. I love the color. I feel like an identity with this thing. And it's sort of starting to disintegrate, but I love it. And I kind of fell in love. This jacket is not replaceable. If I went onto the website and paid $39 for a Uniqlo orange jacket that was this exact same model, it would not be this jacket. This jacket is non-fungible. It is the only one on the planet that exists. It has emotional value. It has significance. It is a very valuable thing because it is scarce. There's only one of them. It's valuable to me, at least. And I kind of fell in love. Okay, we can put these down for a second. Everything in our economy is one or the other, fungible or non-fungible. A sack of rice is fungible. You just want a sack of rice. You don't care which one it is. The Mona Lisa, non-fungible. There's only one. Unsurprisingly, non-fungible things are way more valuable than fungible. So that's the NF in NFT, non-fungible. Now let's talk about the T, which is token. This is a very internet-y word. And to explain this, I have to explain something I have avoided explaining for a very long time. The blockchain. Luckily, there's a way to understand this, and I'm going to make it as painless as possible. Let's say I want to buy 3 slices of pizza from my friend Amy. She charges me $6 for these 3 slices. I don't use cash anymore, so I pull out my debit card, my bank card, and I swipe on her little terminal. As soon as I swipe this card, a message is sent to my bank, and it says, hey, Johnny, who has an account at your bank, wants to spend $6 on pizza, and that money needs to go to Anna's bank. This is like the bread and butter of what
Very
does all day. They document
sure.
every transaction that comes in from all their customers, they send out money to the other banks, and at the end of the day, they have a tally of all the money that went out of your account and into your account, and they can give you a number. They can say, based on all of these transactions, you have $50 in your bank account. And so when that request comes in, as I swipe my card, my bank is like, okay, so based on all of your transactions, you have $50 in your account. I can send $6 to Anna's bank, approved, and they approve the transaction. Once that money comes into Anna's bank is doing the same thing. They're like, oh, cool, she had $80, and now she has 86, and they add it to her record. More and more, your money is just a number on a screen. It's the result of a bunch of transactions. You don't barter with physical things, and you don't use cash as much. So the bank keeping meticulous records of every transaction becomes really important. We trust the bank to do this correctly. So thank you, banks. Banks and other middlemen have been keeping stuff like this running smoothly for centuries. I mean, kind of smoothly.
The NASDAQ, everything and more has been completely wiped out.
day on Wall Street.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
There have been a few bumps in the road. With the rise of the internet, people started to wonder, is there a way that we could do this same thing, coordinate this transaction of transfer of money between 2 people without the bank? The result is a very clever concept called the blockchain. The blockchain fulfills the same thing the bank was doing. But instead of doing this privately on my bank account and talking to Anna's bank, all of the transactions are actually recorded publicly on the internet.
You're going surfing on the internet.
So let's redo this example in a crypto world. Anna charges me 6 crypto coins for my 3 slices of pizza. I go to swipe my proverbial bank card to say, yes, I want to pay you 6 coins. Instead of the bank seeing that request for a transaction and trying to validate it, it goes on to this public record where a bunch of people's computers all around the world are keeping track of every single transaction of everyone, always. If I don't indeed have the 6 coins in my account to pay Anna, all of the people's computers who are keeping track of every single transaction will notice that there's a discrepancy. They'll be like, whoa, 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 dude, you don't have 6 coins. We're looking at every transaction ever, and you don't have 6 coins. Your transaction is rejected. If I do have 6 coins, all of the computers looking at the public record will see that request for a transaction, and they'll be like, yep, approved. You have 6 coins, and now Anna has 6 coins. And they'll write that transaction into the public record. Now Anna having those 6 extra coins is now the business of everybody. Everybody now knows that. The point here is that the group verifies the legitimacy of every transaction by keeping an eye on every transaction to make sure that it adds up. Okay, I'm getting hot at this point, so I'm taking off my orange jacket. Okay, so you're wondering, what does the blockchain and this public record have anything to do with cat gifts that sell for $600,000? Well, I'm about to tell you. So, in my pizza example, we talked about blockchain as a way to verify currency transaction. I pay you this much, you pay me this much.
I'm just looking at something here.
How much everybody has because it's all public. But this is where it starts to bend my mind a little bit. What if we apply this to something that isn't money or currency? Let's say one day you're just looking at the ledger, and the ledger's like, Johnny wants to give Anna 6 coins. Okay, he's got 6 coins, approved. And then a transaction comes up that's like, a Malaysian businessman wants to give $3 million worth of coins to Jack Dorsey in exchange for a little token or digital certificate that says that the tweet is now somehow owned by the Malaysian businessman. The only thing that the blockchain cares about is, does the Malaysian businessman have $3 million worth of coins? And so a bunch of computers all around the world look at the whole entire list of transactions and say like, yeah, this guy has more than $3 million worth of coins. Approved. They approve the transaction. And now it is written in a public record that is unalterable that says that this Malaysian businessman owns this tweet. The token has been transferred to somebody. Non-fungible token, NFT. And if there's anything that gets human psychology to value something, it's if an entire group validates that it's real and that there's only one of them. There are tens of thousands of NFTs of all kinds. Some music is being given tokens. Lots of art is being minted as tokens and being bought and sold. And then, of course, there's
NBA Top Shot,
who's taking advantage of this.
These highlight moments, these top shot moments from your favorite NBA players have been turned into non-fungible tokens.
Jesse made headlines the other day when he paid $208,000 for LeBron James Top Shot.
It's the weirdest thing. As soon as humans have enough abundance, they have their basic needs met, food, shelter, etc. The next frontier is to create value in things that have no inherent value. The value turns into psychological hype, excitement around a certain thing. We've been doing that forever. I mean, that's the whole art industry is based on the idea of a bunch of people deciding that this painting, this little bit of canvas and wood and paint is valuable, and thus it is valuable. The only difference about now is we now have the technology to do this in a non-physical way, using this very sophisticated internet technology that is maturing very quickly. Okay, so this is a lot of hype, and I know you're probably thinking, like, cool, there's a bunch of rich people online buying and trading digital art, and there's millions of dollars worth of cards. I thought you said that this was going to have the potential to change the world, and I'm getting there, but first I need to talk about the crazy flip side to the NFT fad. The reality is that the technology that is the backbone for all of this, the blockchain stuff that we've been talking about, relies on the public ledger thing.
Acabei de perder acesso à minha conta, acabei de perder acesso ao meu e-mail que me dá acesso.
What it relies on is computers doing a bunch of little calculations all day and night forever. These computers aren't real computers. They don't have any memory or screens or anything. All they do is just make little micro calculations all day, all night. Most NFTs are stored on a blockchain called Ethereum. And as of now, in early April 2021, when I'm filming this, the Ethereum blockchain is using 33 terawatt hours of electricity. And you're like, what's a terawatt hour of electricity? That's the same amount of power as the country of Serbia. A reminder that generating electricity usually comes from power plants that are burning fossil fuels, that are putting carbon into the atmosphere, which is a big freaking problem.
Facing a man-made disaster on a global scale.
The power consumption of the Ethereum blockchain is exploding. It quadrupled in like 8 months, and it is showing no sign of slowing down.
Let's keep going.
It is a lot
Let's
of
try to
energy.
finish
And to think
this.
that much energy is not being used to
Let's
like
finish this.
move people around or
Can't
produce
see
things.
this
It's
anymore.
used to like crunch numbers in a weird computer warehouse somewhere so that somebody can buy a fake
Okay.
of a thing that normally.
So I do
oh
this.
man, I
I
can't.
do this.
It's mind blowing. It's such an ironic moment where it's like this is all digital, it's all fake, it's not real, but it's having deeply real world effects. I just want to finish this video now talking about what this might mean for our world going forward. This is definitely hype, and that's the whole point. I mean, these speculation markets are all about hype. We see this all the time with new technologies and new things that people get excited about, and they swarm it with their investments, and the price goes up, and then something happens. For example,
Come on, Uncle Bill, this is the 90s, man.
What's a web page? Something ducks walk on?
Unequal value. So cash in on today's new economy.
And it's the 90s, it's hammer time.
in the 90s, the internet was taking off, and people were just realizing that you could like make money on the internet. You could like make big businesses on the internet. The stock market was surging 400% in 5 years, mainly fueled by so much hype and excitement around these new internet companies.
Break the record as America's longest boom.
The new economy. Is it a boom without end?
This rise peaked in March of 2000, and then the bubble burst, and a lot of these companies either went under or completely lost all of this excitement valuation that they had.
Sure, didn't you? It was down some.
But did that mean that the internet went away? Did that mean that internet businesses didn't come back? No. Companies went on to reshape our world. Right now, I think we are probably in that stage of NFTs. It's hype, it's novel, it's exciting. But what it's doing is it's pushing our minds to think differently about how we validate and verify things. If I buy a house, there is a whole thick stack of paperwork and a bunch of middlemen to make sure that it is very clear who owns the house and how that money gets transferred from one person to another. It is like a nightmare of an experience. If suddenly technology existed that took away the centralized middleman and made transactions between people able to be authenticated, verifiable, and much smoother, that could change our world. I'm not here to say if the bubble's gonna burst or whatever, I don't know. I just know that this is a crazy moment where we're getting our heads around a new technology and what it means. And eventually we'll adapt. This won't be crazy, this won't be novel anymore. Prices will go down, but the technology that allowed it all to happen will probably stick around.
What's going on YouTube? My name is Chris, and in today's video, I'm going to explore the world of options trading with you, even if you don't know one thing about options trading. I will be explaining the most important options trading concepts to you using examples, lots of examples, and visualizations so that you can understand and actually see how options work in the real world. My goal is to provide you with all the information that I would put into a beginner course, but give you everything for free. So with that being said, grab your favorite beer, your favorite wine, kombucha, or whatever your thing is, and let's get started. So the first step in our options trading journey today is to first understand and learn about the basic option characteristics that all options have, and briefly discuss how options are different from shares of stock. Option characteristic number 1 is that all options have an expiration date. This is different from shares of stock because if you buy a share of a company's stock, there's no expiration date on that position. You can hold that share of stock forever as long as that company doesn't go private. There's nothing that's forcing you from closing that position. But with options, all option contracts have an expiration date, and the expiration date could be today or it could be 2.5 years from now, and that means that when you are trading options, you have to choose a time frame for your position. Now this will make more sense when we go through the examples in just a second, but the first thing to know is that all options have an expiration date, and after that expiration date, that option will no longer exist. Option characteristic number 2 is that all options have what is called a strike price. The strike strike price is the price in which the option can be converted into shares of stock. And exactly what that means is that if I have an option with a strike price of $105, that means that in the future, if I want to buy or sell shares of stock using my option, I can do so at the option strike price of $105. So this is really important, and it doesn't have to make sense right now, but basically an option's entire valuation or price is based on the fact that it has the ability to be converted into shares of stock at its strike price. So we'll go through a bunch of examples, so don't worry if this doesn't make sense quite yet. Option characteristic number 3 that we have to discuss, and the final one that we will discuss before moving forward, is what is called the option contract multiplier. So this is really confusing, and I hate it myself as someone who teaches options because it makes things pretty confusing. But if I see a share of stock that has a stock price of $120, I can buy one share of that stock with $120. But if I see an option and the option price is $5, I cannot actually buy that option with $5 US. I actually need $500 because options on stocks can be converted into 100 shares of stock. And because of that, we have to multiply the price that we see by 100 to get the option's actual value, or what is called the option premium. So let's build on these 3 option characteristics, and let's move forward by discussing the 2 option types and get into some examples and clearly look at what these 3 characteristics mean in regards to the examples. The first option type is called a call option. At a very high level, call option prices will increase as the stock price increases, and call option prices will decrease as the stock price decreases. So the price of call options moves with the stock price. But why do call option prices move with the stock price? Well, a call option gives the buyer the right to buy 100 shares of stock at the call option strike price between now and the expiration date of that option. Remember that one of the characteristics of all options is that they have a strike price. And for call options, the call option can be used to purchase 100 shares of stock at the call option's strike price. And as we'll see in an example in just a moment, the ability to purchase shares at the call option strike price, which never changes, will get immensely valuable if the stock price increases significantly higher than that call option strike price, because the option can then be used to purchase shares of stock at a steep discount to the current share price. So without getting into an actual option or stock market example just yet, let's explore what a call option does and how it works by using a very simple example. Let's imagine that there is a house, and the current value of this house is $200,000. Now, I am personally interested in buying this house because I think that the value of the house is going to appreciate significantly over the next 2 years. But I don't want to buy the house right this second. So I'm going to buy an option that gives me the right to buy the house at a price of $200,000 between now and 2 years from now. So we can call the strike price $200,000 since my option that I'm buying on this house gives me the right to buy the house for $200,000 or at the strike price of $200,000 between now and the expiration date in 2 years from now. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy this option that gives me the right to buy this house for $200,000 no matter what the house price does between now and 2 years from now. But I don't just get the ability to purchase this house for $200,000 between now and 2 years from now for free. I have to pay for this contract because for me, there has to be some sort of risk. There can't just be reward. If somebody were to say, you can buy this house for $200,000 between now and 2 years from now, no matter what, and you don't have to pay for that right at all. Well, that would be amazing for me because if the house price falls, I don't have to buy the house, but if the house price goes up to $300,000, then I can buy the house at $200,000, and there was never any risk for me, but there was only reward. So that's not a real scenario, and for me, there has to be some risk, and what that means is that I have to pay a premium to for the right to buy this house
Seriously,
at
I had to do
$200,000
something ill.
between now and 2 years
So
from now.
yeah, I had to
So
do
we would call
something
that
early.
the option
How are you?
cost.
Very good,
Let's
very
say
good,
that I
my
paid
friend. And you?
$10,000 for this option.
How are you, my friend?
I'm saying I want to buy
Everything
this
doing
house
well?
for $200,000, which is the
I
strike
hope
price
so.
between now
I hope
and 2
so.
years from now, which is the
Because life
expiration
is
date.
short.
And my premium for having that ability over that time frame is $10,000. Now let's say that 1 year from now, the house is valued at $350,000. I have possession of a financial contract that gives me the right to purchase that house for $200,000. And with the house currently
Honestly,
valued
it could be better. What happened?
$200,000,
Tell me
what
things.
do you think that means for the value of the financial contract that I have?
What
which
happened,
is
my
called
friend?
an option? Well, as you might imagine, since I can buy the house for $200,000, but the house is
Honestly,
currently
could
valued at
get better. Oh,
$350,000.
okay. What happened?
The financial
Now you
contract
have to
that I
say
have,
it.
which is called an option, is immensely valuable.
You can't just say that
Now I can
and without
actually
saying anything.
exercise my option, meaning that I will buy the house at the strike price, which is $200,000. And since the house is currently valued at $350,000, I am buying something that is worth $350,000 for a value of $200,000. And because of that, we could say that my profit from this scenario is $150,000. So that's the golden scenario. Now, because I paid $10,000 for the option initially, my net profit in this case would not be the full $150,000. It would be $140,000. So my total profit minus what I paid for the option initially. So that is the golden
This character
scenario.
is for
But let's say the opposite happened,
a
and the
person.
house price did not increase and actually fell to $150,000
I don't even.
2
I
years
can't
from my purchase
really
date
tell
of
about
option.
that much,
Well, I don't
but
actually have to buy the house for $200,000
as a mascot,
because I have the option to buy it, but I don't have to exercise
yeah,
my right to buy the
kind,
house at the
kind.
strike price. So since
Not
the
really,
house is
but
at
kind.
$150,000, obviously I don't want to buy it at my strike price of $200,000 because if I really wanted that house, I could just buy it at the current market price of $150,000. And because of that, the option that I have is worthless. And since I paid $10,000 for that option and now it is not worth anything, I have lost my full $10,000 that I invested into that option. But if we compare this to the loss I would have had if I purchased the house initially without buying an option, I would have paid $200,000 for the house, and at the current price of $150,000, I have lost $50,000 as opposed to the $10,000 that I lost in my option.
Okay. Yeah.
So with the option, I only lost
But soon I will
$10,000. If I
have
would
something
bought the house initially,
to say
I
about
would have
this.
lost
No worries.
$1,000. So
No
with
worries,
options,
my
you
friend.
have limited risk and immense upside potential, which is why traders love to buy
If I
options.
could,
So let's
I
take all
would
of these
say.
concepts that we just discussed with this basic house example, and let's look at it with a real option example in the stock market. And for this first example, we are going to be looking at a call option on Tesla, which is everybody's favorite stock right now. Unless you're short, then maybe it's not so much your favorite stock. In this real image of Tesla options, I have set up an order to purchase the Tesla call option with a strike price of $800 and an expiration in June, which is 39 days away as of this image. The strike price of this call option is $800, which means that between now and the expiration date in 39 days, if I own this contract, I have the right to purchase 100 shares of Tesla stock at the call option strike price of $800. So in our house example, it was just buying one house. So therefore, we would say the option contract multiplier in that case is 1. But in this case, since I can buy 100 shares of Tesla stock at the option strike price, the option contract multiplier is said to be 100. And because of that, we have to look at the option's price and multiply it by 100 to actually get the option's value or option premium. Now let's note that the current Tesla stock price is $811. So the stock price is the current market price of the shares, but we are looking at a call option with a strike price of $800. In the bottom middle of this image, we can see that the option price
Reading overall, yeah, I'm not doing bad.
cents. But
Can't
remember,
really complain, but
not the
thanks for
actual
asking.
value or premium of
Thanks
the
for
option.
asking.
This is the option.
So you don't want to talk about
To get the option's actual value
yours.
or the cost of purchasing this option, one contract, is actually $81.70 multiplied by the option contract multiplier of 100, which gives us an option value or option premium of $8,170. Now this is a really expensive option. Now don't worry, because not all options are this expensive.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about exactly why
That's
this
true.
option is so
That's
expensive
awesome.
in just a little bit. But why
Everything
would
good.
this option be worth
Everything
over
good.
$8,000? That seems a
Everything
little bit
good.
crazy. Remember, a call option buyer can use the call option to purchase 100 shares of stock at the call option strike price between now and the expiration date. And in this case, the expiration is 39 days away. So let's say that I think Tesla shares are going to increase significantly over the next 39 days. I'm going to buy this Tesla call option right now with a strike price of $800, and I'm going to pay the premium of $8,170 to buy this call option for just one contract. Now let's say 2 weeks from now, Tesla has had a massive rally in the stock price, and now Tesla shares are trading at $1,000 per share. Well, I have in my possession a financial contract called a call option that gives me the right to purchase 100 shares of Tesla stock at my call option's strike price of $800.
Such a bad use. I am using not Photoshop.
So with my option,
I'm using Clip
I
Studio,
could
but
exercise my option, meaning I want to
this is
go
a
through
Clip
with what
Studio.
the option allows me to do, which is with a call option,
Clip
purchase
Studio.
100 shares of stock at the strike price, and if I do that, I will buy 100 shares of Tesla stock at the strike price of $800. So we take $800 per share times 100 shares. I will pay $80,000 to buy that share position. But Tesla shares are currently trading for $1,000. So if I go ahead and turn around and sell my shares, if I sell 100 shares for $1,000 per share, I will receive $100,000 for selling those shares. So my profit in this scenario is $200 per share multiplied by 100 shares, giving me a $20,000 profit. But remember that I paid $8,170 for this option initially, so my $20,000 profit minus my initial cost of entering the trade of $8,170 gives me a net profit of $11,830. If I make a profit of $11,830 on an initial trade cost of $8,170, my return on that position is 145%. So the reason a trader would pay so much for a Tesla call option is because Tesla shares are incredibly volatile and can move around hundreds of dollars in just a few days' time. So if a trader believes that Tesla's stock price is going to surge in the near term, they might buy a call option, and by doing so, if they buy the call option and then the stock price increases significantly, the value of their call option will also surge because the ability to buy shares of stock at the fixed strike price gets immensely valuable as the share price rockets to higher and higher prices. But we need to discuss something that's extremely important, and it's a major sticking point for options trading beginners. And this is that when you are trading options, very rarely will you actually exercise the option to purchase shares of stock at the call strike price and then sell them at the current market price, as I just described in this Tesla example. The reason I described it like that is because as an options trader, you have to understand where the prices are coming from and why the price changes make sense. So in the case of buying this 800 call option when Tesla is at $811, if the stock price goes to $1,000, I have a contract that allows me to buy 100 shares of stock at my strike price of $800. So then I could exercise that right, buy the shares at $800 and sell them at $1,000, which would give me a $200 profit per share. But here's the thing. An option will always include the benefit that it provides the owner in its price. So the option price will always embed any profit that can be made by exercising it. So in the example where I buy the 800 Tesla call option and the stock price goes to $1,000, since I have a call option and the call option can buy shares of stock $200 below the current stock price of Tesla, my call option's price will be at least $200. And that's just the price. So if we multiply by the contract multiplier of 100, we get an option value of at least $20,000. Now it's a law that an option has to be worth at least the benefit that it can provide the owner. And by benefit, I mean if I exercise the option to buy 100 shares of stock at 800 and the stock price is currently at 1,000, the benefit or the profit that I can make by doing so is $200 per share. And that means that the call option's price must be worth $200 or more. So in this Tesla example, I mentioned that I could buy the call option, the stock price increases, that I could exercise the call option. But in reality, you would not exercise the call option. You would simply sell the call option at the higher price, and you would make the difference between your purchase price and your sale price. So it's just like buying shares of stock. When you buy shares of stock, your goal is to see the shares increase in value, and then you can sell the shares at the higher price and secure your profit. With options, it's the exact same thing. 99% of the time, when you are trading options, you will be trying to trade options with the goal of profiting from the price changes of the options. Very, very rarely will you actually want to exercise the option, because you don't need to exercise the option, because the benefit that you could make by exercising the
I don't know
option
if Ushi
will be
is there or
embedded
not.
in the option's price. So I really want you to internalize the fact that when you're trading options, you don't have to exercise the option to realize the profit. The profit will be realized by selling the option at a higher price if you are buying options. So really quickly, if we just want to fact check what I just said, let's look at an option on Tesla with a strike price $100 below the current stock price. That option is worth more than $100, so that checks out. If we look at a call option with a strike price $200 below Tesla's current share price, that call option is going to have a price higher than $200. So that checks out as well. So I want you to internalize that when you're trading options, you do not have to exercise the option to realize the profit. And 99% of the time, you are going to be trading options with the goal of profiting from the price change in the options, at which point you could close your position and you could realize the profit, which will be the difference between your purchase price and your sale price. So let's take a look and see exactly what happened with this Tesla call option.
So Luís, you are freelancer at the say no, or mine, but how's your mind's eye? What do you mean?
So I took
Just
another
the way
screenshot
of that
to look at that same call option with the increase in Tesla's share price, so
What do
that
you
we
mean?
could see exactly
Eu não
what
sei, é
happened with
sempre
that
aí,
call option
sempre
with the passage of 1 day and an increase in the stock price. So let's take a look. The stock price in this image is now $836, which is a $25 increase from the Tesla share price of $811 that we just looked at a moment ago. So now that the share price is $836, let's go ahead and go to the June expiration and look at the call option with a strike price of $800 and see exactly how that option has changed given the increase in Tesla's stock price. As we can see, the 800 call option in that June expiration cycle is worth $94.10. And if we multiply that price by the options contract multiplier of 100, we get an option premium of $9,410. So if I purchased that call option just the other day and I paid $8,170 for that call option and held it until today, which is a share price of $836, which is a $25 share price increase from when I purchased the call option, now my 800 call option is worth $9,410.
Anos e sempre aí. É para ganhar. like picturing an image.
And my profit on that trade
Oof.
would be 1,240.
You mean like when I create a piece of art?
An initial trade cost of
If that is the answer, the question, what I do is like when I
So this is another benefit of trading options.
yeah, I kind of like
Is that they give you
I just see I picture the thing that I want to draw and I draw it. It's easy, yeah? Like that looks easy.
Saw a 15% increase in its value. So the stock price went up 3%, but the call option went up 15%, which means comparing the two returns, the return in the call option was 5 times more than the actual return in the shares themselves. This is exactly how options traders make money. They think that something will happen with the stock price. They put on their position. If that happens, their position benefits by seeing an increase in its value, and then they can go ahead and sell their position at the higher price, and their profit is the difference between the two prices. So it's just like trading shares of stock. You buy a share of stock for $100 per share, and it goes up to $125 per share. You can sell your shares for $125 a share, and your profit is the difference, which is $25 per share or 25%. So it's the same idea with options trading, except with options trading you have a more narrow time frame because, as I mentioned earlier, with shares of stock you have no time limit. But with options, since you have to choose an expiration, you do have a time limit, and because of that it is a more sensitive activity. But the reason people do it, as you just saw in this Tesla example, is that it can leverage your returns if you are right. So through this example, we learned a few things about call options. First is that the first option type is a call option. The second is that the call option has a strike price, and that means that the call option can buy shares of stock at the call option strike price between now and expiration. So that is what a call option does. And because the call option can purchase 100 shares of stock at the call option strike price, if the share price increases immensely, that ability or value is going to be
probably tomorrow.
valuable. If the share
I
price
can stream again. I can stream again.
price, then you have a
Yes.
financial contract
Soon I'll
that
be
allows you
going to
buy
bed
100
because
shares of stock,
it's
$200
almost
below
2.
current stock price.
I'm tired and I need to rest, as I haven't been resting that much. What about you, Lucy? How is your life doing so far? You haven't said anything lately. What have you been doing?
Should they decide to exercise it. So what I mean by that, once more, is that if I buy a call option on Tesla with a strike price of $800 and the stock price increases to $1,000, if I decide to
for tomorrow,
exercise the call option,
tomorrow
I will buy 100 shares of stock
I will.
$200 below the current stock price. And because that will give me a profit of $200 per share, that call option must be worth $200 or more, meaning that the premium has to be $20,000 or more. And if you look at any call option and you look at the difference between the stock price and the strike price, the option will be trading for at least that amount, because it is a law in options trading that all option prices must include the benefit that they can provide the owner at that moment. And the last thing that we learned about call options is that they provide leveraged returns. So in this Tesla example, the share price increased by 3%, but the call option that we were looking at actually increased by 15%, which means the return in the call option was 5 times higher than the return in the shares themselves. So everything seems great and all, but I know you're wondering, what's the catch? And there is a catch. The catch when buying call options is that you have to be right about the stock price increasing, otherwise you will lose money on that trade. So in the house example, remember that I bought a call option with a strike price of $200,000, and I paid $10,000 in premium for that call option. And remember, in my second scenario, I said that the house price goes to $150,000. But I have a financial contract called a call option that allows me to buy that house for $200,000. But since the current valuation of that house is $150,000, there's no benefit of having my call option because my call option gives me the right to buy the house $50,000 higher than the current market price of the house. And obviously, I don't even need the option to do that. If I want to buy the house, I can just buy it for the lower price of $150,000, which is the current market price. And in that example, I said that my option would be worthless, and because of that, I lost the entire $10,000 premium for buying that call option on that house when the house price did decrease. So there is a catch when buying call options, and that is that you need the stock price to increase. Otherwise, you will lose money on that transaction. And we'll talk very in detail later about why buying call options or buying options in general will lose money if the stock price does not change. But for now, I want to focus on teaching you the basic option trade and how the two option types move with the stock price and how traders actually make money when trading options. I need some water, I just talked a lot. Alright, let's keep going. So let's go ahead and really quickly look at an example where a call option trade does not make money because the stock price falls. And we'll see exactly what happens to the call options price as that is happening. In this image, we are looking at the shares of Adobe, which has the ticker symbol ADBE, and we are looking at the shares on May 6th. On this date, Adobe shares closed at $362 per share. Let's say a trader thought that the upward trend in Adobe shares would continue, so they went to the May expiration cycle and they bought the 380 call option. So the call option in the May expiration with a strike price of $380. And let's look at a chart of that exact option so we can see how the option price changes as the stock price is changing side by side. On May 6th, the May 380 call option closed at a price of $1.92. So that means the premium or the value of that option is $192, meaning that if I wanted to buy one of these call options, I would need to have $192 available in my trading account. So let's say a trader buys this 380 call option and they pay $192 to enter that trade. As we can see, the option price initially jumped higher as the share price continued higher, but then unfortunately things turned around, the stock price crashed, and with it the call options price decreased as well. The very last data point on this call option chart, the
Okay guys,
option had 1 day left until
I'm dead.
expiration.
I'm dead.
And with
My
a
eyes are
strike price
closing.
of
Okay,
$380
I'm gonna
with
get
Adobe
some
shares
sleep. Yeah, I fucked up
significantly
my
below that
traps.
at about $355
Really?
per share. The 380 call option with 1 day left until expiration was essentially worth
Jesus,
$0.
man.
It was just a couple
Jesus, so bad,
pennies,
so,
essentially that means
so,
the option was
just
worth.
bad things,
We'll
guys.
explore
Come
exactly
on.
why this happens in just a
You guys
little
have to
bit.
bring cool
For
things,
now, just understand
not
that
just
if you
bad.
buy call options and
Oh
the stock
god.
price decreases
Okay,
and
guys,
below
I'm going to
the
bed
call
now.
option's strike
Be
price,
back
as the
later,
option gets
okay?
closer and closer to
Tomorrow for
expiration,
more,
the
probably.
options price will
Okay?
slowly
Yeah, probably not. I'm
$0
coming.
or being
I'm coming
worthless
because I said I'm
at the
coming, so
time
I'm
of
coming.
expiration. And that's because if the stock price is well below a call
Promise is a
option strike
promise.
price near expiration, there is little value in having that call option because traders don't need the call option to buy shares of stock. So if I bought this call option initially for $192 and a few days later the stock price was way lower, the option was close to expiration, and the option was worth only a couple pennies, then I would have essentially lost 100% of the premium that I paid for that option. Since if I buy something for $192 and its value falls to $0, I have lost everything that I put into that position. And if I held this option through the expiration date and the strike price
Okay,
is
alright,
$380,
yeah.
but
Yes.
the stock price
I
is
gotta go.
below
Alright, take care. All the best. See you guys later for more. Hope you enjoy the stream.